As we edge ever closer to the reunion between David Tennant and Catherine Tate in Doctor Who, I thought it'd be interesting to throw back to the time they first reunited back in 2015 for the 10th Doctor adventures from Big Finish. This is going to be my personal ranking of the 9 stories from the first 3 volumes of this series. Technically there are more releases with the 10th Doctor from Big Finish, but for the most part they're mainly just events or crossover stories, so these ones are much more accessible to a general audience as they're more standalone type stories that are designed to basically be lost adventures from series 2 and 4. Below I have linked the Big Finish website where you can purchase these stories if any of them take your interest. But before we begin the ranking, I'd just like to ask, if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you supported the channel by hitting subscribe, turning on notifications, liking, commenting. You can find and follow me on social media at the links here. At the bottom spot, number 9, we have Cold Vengeance. Not necessarily a bad story, it's perfectly serviceable, but it's nothing you haven't really seen before. The Ice Warriors are at their most generic and could easily be interchanged with the Silurians in this case. Outside of having the 10th Doctor and Rose, there's not really anything unique about this release. Next up, at number 8, we have The Sword of the Chevalier. Now I'll give this one a bit more credit. There is quite a bit of potential in this story. The Chevalier themselves are an interesting character, but they don't really have that much to do in the plot, as the focus is mostly on this very generic alien race, loosely tied to the central themes, but otherwise I wasn't that impressed by this one. Might be controversial, but number 7 is No Place. It's admittedly a pretty creative idea, and it's great to have Wilf back, but I don't think he has nearly enough to do, and the premise itself probably would have worked better as a live action story, as the found footage aspect doesn't necessarily translate well to a non-visual medium since it's presented as a TV show rather than a radio broadcast. Big Finish has done some pretty good found footage style stories, but most of them are better suited to the non-visual medium than this one. At number 6 we have Technophobia. A decent start to the 10th Doctor range, but nothing too special here. Though it is nice that Donna gets to take centre stage and has to be the one who deals with the situation when the 10th Doctor is taken out of commission. Good start, but otherwise not really that noteworthy. With that said, it did demonstrate the fact that this range was prepared to do its own thing, rather than just solely rely on the nostalgia for that era. Number 5 is Time Reaver. Pretty underrated. The concept of exploring an alien device which in the hands of one person could do great things while in the other it can be a deadly weapon is a really cool idea, and it takes the Doctor and Donna to a location which we wouldn't be able to get to see in the TV series due to limited budget. So having them in a more sci-fi location, it's a change of pace which is greatly appreciated. At number 4 we have The Creeping Death. Was really hoping that this one be a little higher on the list, as the setting, themes and characters are all really strong here. The monster on the other hand is just kind of underwhelming. Doesn't make the story bad, it's undeniably really good, but definitely an example of a story just kind of shoehorning in an alien for the sake of having an alien. A slight rewrite to either tone it down or remove it could have significantly improved this one. But with that said, it's still a good story regardless. Into the top 3 now, we have probably the best of the 10th Doctor and Rose releases, though I still prefer the 10 and Donna ones, that being The Infamy of the Zaros. It's probably the one that feels the most like a Series 2 story. It's definitely the one that's trying to go for the nostalgic aspect, and while that's not necessarily great for a story overall, I would be lying if I said it didn't somewhat win me over. But it's also a great story in its own right. I really enjoy fourth wall and meta humour, so this type of adventure really appeals to me. It helps that Camille Coduri returns as Jackie, and it's always great to see her. She's easily one of the most underrated characters of the entire show. And it tries to amend one of the issues that I had with The Idiot's Lantern, exploring an abusive relationship between a parent and child, and definitely handles it a lot better here than it did in that story. Number 2 was a quite surprising choice for me, and that was 1 Mile Down. The cover didn't really have me that excited, but going into it, it was much better than I gave it credit for. The Jadoon, despite being the central focus of the cover, aren't really that main of a element in the story. They're more of a background detail, which I think is the best way to handle them. And at number 1, which is probably not a surprise to anyone, Death and the Queen. Not only is this easily the best of the Big Finish releases from the 10th Doctor, but it's up there with some of the best stories from the TV series with Tennant. It's an interesting mix of comedy, horror and drama, and explores probably the most cliched and frustrating companion departure type plot, having them fall in love with someone they barely know and the Doctor just choosing to abandon them. But it's given a creative twist which is unique to the 10th Doctor and Donna, and really shows off all of their strengths. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your rankings for the 10th Doctor Big Finish releases in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.